Morning, folks, and welcome to episode 3 of season 2 of the A&J Outdoors podcast slash vlog. If you're listening to this on one of your favorite apps for podcasts, welcome to the podcast. If you see me, welcome to the vlog. All right, so we got some good stuff to talk about today. I want to get into it pretty quick. I hope you all are having a good 2022 so far. Like the last 2 years, ours has started off rocky, but we're doing all right. Going to have some guests coming up. I'm excited, so I'm going to go ahead and spill the beans. If you guys follow the Outdoors Crew, we do our weekly live every Tuesday night, and 3 of us rotate hosting that. That's myself, Mr. Stanley Orchard, and Mr. Grant McIntosh. Well, one of my upcoming guests is going to be Mr. Stanley Orchard. Now, you get to see him in that live stream, right? But we're going to dig a little deeper, ask him some questions, and have a good discussion with him about all things fishing, Texas coast related, and whatnot. Okay, so that's going to be a good one. And then the second guest I've already got lined up is Mr. Oscar Castillo. Now, he's one of our locals, right? But we've known each other for, I want to say, about 12 or 13 years. And him and his family and friends started the FINAC Foundation, and it's here local, but they do go down to the coast and other places. They do a lot of amazing things, free clinics for children, getting them into fishing. And so we'll talk about some of that stuff too, working with Texas Parks and Wildlife, all kinds of cool stuff. So those are going to be 2 of my guests coming up that I've got locked in so far. Going to be good. Today we're going to talk about boat ownership, right? We're going to talk a couple news stories, outdoor related news stories. And we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about cooking. Somebody suggested that maybe I talk about barbecue and grill and cooking. So I'm going to add a little discussion about that today. If you follow me on any of my other social media outlets, especially Facebook and Instagram, you see some of the foods that I'm cooking, indoors, outdoors, it doesn't matter. So I want to bring a little bit of that into the vlog and podcast. Now, I want to go ahead and start off with some pretty neat stories I found for you. First, for those of you that fish Texas or not familiar with fishing Texas, we've got a long coastline, right? And like the second half of it from Corpus Christi south, we got Padre Island, right? Padre Island north, you got a little habitation on the very north end, real nice area, Port Aransas, all that stuff up there. And then you head south on Padre Island north, and you can get into Penns, Padre Island National Seashore, 60 miles of uninhabited beach where you can drive the beach, and a lot of fishing down there. I've been down there several times. We'd love to fish and surf down there. And then there's a break in the island, right? Man-made, a cut, so boats can get out down. And the other side of that is South Padre, right? I have not spent a lot of time South Padre. I think I've been down there once, probably 15, 20 years ago. Me and Audrey, and I think we had our youngest daughter and one of her friends, and we did I think it was a day trip just to run around down there and look at the beaches. But I didn't do any fishing or anything like that back then. But I think that needs to change. I think I need to get down there. I'm reading this story out of Lone Star Outdoors News, right? If you want to look it up on the internet, it is LSONEWS.com. And they got a lot of great stories, Texas related, if you're interested in Texas. But they're talking about a reef that's off of South Padre Island, a man-made reef, right? They're saying the Rio Grande Valley Reef is what they call it. And they built this, right, to, of course, attract fish. And so you don't have to go very far offshore to get to this reef. And what are you going to catch at a reef? Well, you're going to find typically snapper. You can find grouper. I'm sure there's some different times of the year. You got some king mackerel running around there, Spanish mackerel running around there. They've got a list here. Let me read their list, right? Red snapper, amberjack, blue marlin, bonita, grouper, jack crevalle, kingfish, ling, mahi, sailfish, tarpon, tuna, right? So you might not find that tuna or sailfish right there at that reef, but they're saying it's possible, and I guess it does happen. But those are probably, I'm sure the grouper, snapper, kingfish, stuff like that are probably the main inhabitants of that area. But it's just neat to know that for Texas, we don't have a lot of reefs, right? That I know of, they're all man-made, right? We have some off of Corpus Christi, out off that shoreline. Boatman's is one that comes to mind. And then the big thing for Texas is getting out there to the rigs. Now we've got those gas rigs that, you can see them from the shore. They're not very far out, right? I don't know, 10, 8 miles, 7 miles, some of them less than that. But the big oil rigs that everybody imagines when you say a rig, offshore rig, those suckers are 40 to 60 something miles out. So you're not going to hop in your little 30-gallon boat, gas tank boat and run to those bad boys for the day unless you bring a lot of extra gas with you. Okay, so this gives Texas fishermen and women a chance to go offshore, right? You're not in the bay system and do some fishing, but it's not that long multi-hour drive out and back that a lot of people just don't survive well and start, hanging over the side of the boat. Okay, so I thought that was a pretty cool story, and it's got me thinking I need to somewhere here plan a trip down there. I know Mello's one of the guides. He's a friend. He's a guide. He's a YouTuber here out of San Antonio. Does a lot of freshwater guide stuff. I think he's doing the white bass run right now, guiding for that. But his family, I watch him. They take I think it's Thanksgiving. They go down to South Padre. Brings his boat down there. He's got a Carolina skiff, and he does a lot of awesome fishing down there. And I'm like, man, maybe I need to pass Corpus Christi next trip and go all the way down to South Padre. So we'll see. Of course, if I do it, you guys will know because there will be a video on my main fishing channel. Remember, this is my vlog channel, and I have my main fishing channel. The two don't go together well as far as analytics for YouTube. That's why I got them on separate channels. So that's first story. You guys got any comments about that? Want to know more? Want to discuss it? If you're watching this, just put a comment down in the section below. All right, let's check out this other one. Now, this other one is not Texas related, okay? So me and Audrey was born and raised in Michigan, okay? And I lived there in my last couple of years of high school before I joined the Army. And we lived in a real small town, Agora. It's on the Saginaw Bay, which is a bay off of Lake Huron. And just a real outdoors environment, right? Fishing was outside the door, hunting. I think when we talked about that, my first buck, right? I told that story last podcast. Same area, right? And so we got a small little house up there now, and we try to get up there every summer. And of course, I'm going to get out on the bay and do some walleye fishing. But I was looking at Outdoor News, which is all one word, outdoornews.com, right? And then they got news on Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New York, Ohio, and Illinois. So kind of the Midwest, upper Midwest area. And in the Michigan area, they've got a story on USVs. Okay, we all know what a unmanned what is it? UAV, unmanned aerial vehicle, right? UAVs are drones, right? Well, a USV is an unmanned surface vessel. Okay, and when we say surface vessel, we mean it's on the water. It's 15 foot tall. It looks like a sailboat, right? It's got both wind and solar power. And these things are riding around on the Great Lakes. They started, there's two of them, right? And they started them in Lake Michigan. And they've got high-speed GPS mapping systems built into them, right? So they can map out and see the fish. And it's recording that data, right, for the state of Michigan. And it says underneath fishing boats. So I'm assuming commercial boats, these things hang around those commercial boats and just get the data on the fish that they're seeing underneath these commercial boats. They're started in Lake Michigan. They're going to go up through the Straits of Mackinac, right, on the Mackinac Bridge up there at the top of the Lower Peninsula, and then come down and actually go through Lake Huron. So I don't know if it'll come all the way down into Saginaw Bay. I think that would be awesome. I'd love to be out there fishing and see one of these things come rolling by. But so it's a very innovative way for, I'm supposing the DNR up in Michigan is the sponsor of this, but it's very innovative way to map water or the bottom of the lake or see fish. And like I said, it says it's looking at fish underneath fishing vessels, which we're talking about commercial fishing, of course. So pretty neat story. Again, outdoornews.com. Right, and then you can look at stories from all those upper Midwest states. So that's my two news stories for you guys today. So let's get into the next thing we want to talk about. I want to talk about boat ownership. Whether you already have a boat or you're looking at buying a boat, right? I grew up, again, fishing. My grandpa had a boat. We would meet at Navajo Lake up on the border of New Mexico and Colorado. He'd go fishing on his boat when I was a little kid. And then when he moved back to Michigan, that's where me and my dad moved, right? When I'm a teenager now. And he had that same boat up there in the marina, and we would go out on Saginaw Bay and catch the crap out of perch. So great memories. And so I've always known that I want a boat, right? And bouncing around in the Army every 3 years, moving it just overseas and back, and it just wasn't conducive to owning a boat then. But then I got here in San Antonio, retired from the Army, took a real job, if you want to say that, and got my first boat. It was back in, I think, 2008. And that was Misadventure. If you look in my old videos, you might see the Misadventure. Owning a boat is great. Okay. Now they do say the two happiest days of any boat owner are the day they buy the boat and the day they sell the boat. Right. But that's not true across the board. I think, in my personal perspective, I see that more with people that go out recreational boating, not fishing. Right. Fishermen typically seem to keep their boats because they're going out and using them often. I see people buy a boat just to go out and hang out on the lake and tube and all that. And, the first year they get the boat, it's all awesome, right? And they go, 3, 4, maybe 6 times that, depending on where you live in the States, right? How often you can go out. But 3, 4, maybe 6 times that first year, and it's a blast. And then store it during the winter, right? And then bring it out the next year, and maybe 3 times, maybe 4, and then the next year, maybe we take it out once or twice, or we don't take it out at all. Then a boat is something you have to exercise, right? You can't park a boat for a year without doing proper storage maintenance and expect to just drag it to the lake and jump in and go, right? It's just one of those things you've got to make sure you do the maintenance on. So those are the folks that I see that after 2 or 3 years, all of a sudden this, hey, only 2 years old, barely used, mint condition boat for sale, right? But fishermen seem to hold on to their boats. Like I've got my second boat. The first boat I wanted to upgrade. That's the only reason I got rid of Misadventure. She was old, 70-something model deck boat, right? And so then I bought a brand new boat. That was the Mako that I have now. This is back in 2010. It was a 2009 model, but it was still brand new on the showroom in 2010. So I bought that boat. And now this boat, in the coming year, I will likely be selling it after, and you can check out all the upgrades I did to it. It's an awesome fishing machine, but I just want something bigger now. Audrey wants something bigger. So we're probably going to be selling it. So it's not, oh, we got a boat and we stopped using it and we're selling it. We're selling it just to upgrade to another boat, right? So there's a difference there. But you have to do the maintenance, right? Like anything else, right? Your car, if you go and I know we live in a telework world right now, but typically you're driving your car almost every day of the week, right? It's getting used. You're burning the fuel out of it. You're doing all those things that keep it going, right? And then you take it into the shop for its oil change every however many miles your vehicle requires. And a boat, we'll take it out this weekend, and then it might be 3 weeks from now we take it out again, and then it might be, and it can sometimes sit for a couple months before you get a chance because you're surf fishing, weather's bad, the wind, whatever, right? And so it just doesn't get the proper use or the amount of use that your vehicle gets, and so things can start going wrong. And then you introduce, especially if you fish in the salt water, to anything electronic, right? And you can have some issues there. So you just have to be prepared for that. I really think 2 people do well owning boats, especially boats that go in salt water. People that are handy, that can work on things themselves and fix things, right? I like to think that I'm in that category. And then, or people who just have the money to, whenever they need to get something done on the boat, take it to the shop and get it done. And nothing against them. At my age, I would rather take my boat to a shop, to a good shop, and have them do stuff for my boat than me do it myself. I do it myself because I'm in that first group. I can, and I don't want to spend all that money. I can save myself a lot of money, which affords me the boat, right? So that's the thing that you have to worry about a boat. You've heard the boat stands for bust out another 1,000. And sometimes that's true, right? Sometimes that's true. So if you're handy, right, and you're thinking about maybe getting a boat, should I buy brand new? Brand new's nice. You got the warranty and all of that, but brand new comes with a price tag, especially right now. Boats are really expensive. Even used boats are a lot more expensive than they were just a couple years ago. But brand new, again, you got all the maintenance. Get everything you want on it now. Have them install the graphs you want. Have them put the biggest motor you can afford to put on it that's allowed on that boat, right? Because down the road, you're going to feel bad about it. Okay, so just take that advice. Do everything you can to it when you buy it brand new. Okay, if you're buying a used boat, then you should be in that second category. Have a shop look at it, right? Inspect it for you if you're spending a lot of money. But then understand there's things you're gonna have to clean some stuff. You're gonna have to make some repairs. It just happens, right? So if you're on the fence, if you're in that side of the house that I can do some things myself, then I say go for it. Get that boat, get out on the water and go fishing. And you know what? Kayaks. I'm too old and broken right now to comfortably fish a kayak, but I know tons of people that do some awesome fishing. Just look on YouTube, right? Out of kayak. So you don't have to go out and get a 30-foot center console offshore boat to go fishing. You can get a kayak and do a lot of the same stuff, a lot, and fish some areas that big boat can't get to, right? We're talking about inshore. All right. Yeah, current boat costs, we hit on that. It's outrageous. If I sell my boat this year, it's probably going to sell well for me, right? I'm going to get what I want for it, I believe. But then finding that next boat, because what we want to do is upgrade size. I'm definitely going used. I'll have to look all over the country and not just look for something local because that's hard to find. And it's probably going to not be cheap. So that's the plan. All right, so if you guys got any comments about boats, if you're watching this on the vlog, go ahead and throw them down below, ask questions, whatever. Again, my main channel for A&J Outdoors, I've got a lot of videos on there of upgrades and repairs that I've made on my boat, so you can check those out. Maybe they'll help you out. All right, next topic. Let's get into cooking. Now, I like all kinds of cooking. Now, when me and my wife were young, I would, cook something out on the Weber. She did all the cooking in the kitchen, right? And then as we've aged, matured, and grown together, right? We've been together for 36 and a half years now. It's kind of morphed, right? I do a lot more indoor cooking and outdoor cooking, okay? So I can talk about a lot of different kinds of cooking, but today we're going to talk about a recipe I made this weekend or something I cooked this weekend that if you follow me on social media, which you should be, right? Find me on Facebook, A&J Outdoors page on Facebook, Instagram, right? A&J Outdoors on Instagram. You'll see photos and stories of the stuff I've been cooking. But Sunday, I made some of those beef dino ribs, right? If you go in your grocery store, down here, we're lucky to have H-E-B. They're really good about having great meats out there. And one of them is the beef dino ribs, right? I think these weighed, I don't know, a few pounds, right? And so kind of cook them like I do a brisket. So as I'm explaining this, you could probably picture a brisket, right? The same way. It's not hard. It just takes time. So I'm using the Traeger, right? Traeger use wood pellets. So I'm using hickory for the beef, right? I like hickory with beef. I like pecan with beef. I'm not a big fan of mesquite with beef, but a lot of people love that down here in Texas. But I'm doing hickory, okay? I got my temperature set to 250 degrees, okay? So there goes that. That's getting ready. Now I'm going to prep the meat, okay? It's been out I want it out for at least an hour before you start cooking it. It helps it cook more evenly, right? Get room temperature. Don't do that with seafood or chicken, but beef and pork, it's fine, okay? I'm going to trim excess fat off the ribs, okay? And there's different kinds of fat, right? Oh, fat adds the flavor. Don't get rid of all the flavor. That hard fat, that's kind of like when you shave it, it's kind of like soap, right? That's not going to cook down and give you flavor, right? So you can trim all of that off, okay? If there's any silver skin, trim that off, okay? And you'll know what I'm talking about if you look at it. You see the silvery, real thin, you kind of fillet it off like you would a fish skin, okay? And then the soft fat, the kind of blubbery fat that's on there, you can trim that down a little bit, but that's the fat that's going to cook down. So it's not a horrible thing, Okay. So I've got the ribs trimmed up. Traeger has an internal temp probe on it, but I like this aftermarket one that I got. So I stick my probe in the meaty end, right? I season it with however you season beef. Beef can be seasoned with just salt and pepper and taste delicious, okay? I use one of uh, Two Gringos Chupacabra rubs on my brisket and on these ribs. It's the Chop House, which, just tasting it, I use that Chop House on a lot of stuff. I have no association with them right now, but it's there's salt and pepper in there for sure. There's some garlic, and I don't know what else, but I put it on my eggs. I put it on just about anything now. Really good spice. So give it a heavy dose of that, all sides, all over it, right? If on the inside of the ribs there's a film, like a skin, just like on pork ribs. If you ever do baby back or any kind of pork ribs and you pull that little membrane on the inside of the ribs off, these beef ribs can have the same thing. So if the butcher didn't remove it, go ahead and pull that off too before you spice, right? And then spice. And if you want to spice them and let them sit in the fridge for an hour or two, that's fine. But I just, once the Traeger's getting up to temp, I come inside, prep, spice, let them sit there until the Traeger's up to temp. Traeger gets up to temp, I got my probe in it, right? I got my probe set to 160 degrees, right? Traeger's 250 degrees, put it in there, close it, and leave it alone, okay? It got to 160 pretty quick. I think this time it was about 2 hours. Now, looking at the recipe for these ribs on Traeger, there's all kinds of recipes out there on YouTube, but I'm looking at the times and stuff. They say 5 to 6 hours. It's never the same for everybody. Anyway, so 2 hours, we hit 160. I take them off. I've got some of that peach colored paper, butcher paper, right? Double layer wrapped it so it's all sealed up nicely. Put them back on the Traeger, thermometers are installed, right? And the temp sent to 203. Now, I think anywhere from 195 internal temp to 203 is a good internal temp, right? But we set it to 203. I think it was another 6 hours almost 8 hours total for these ribs. When I took them off, right, they're still in the wrapping. I got a towel. I wrapped them in this towel. I put them in a cooler and closed it. And they sat in there for, I would like to have them sitting there for an hour. You could have them sitting there, and there's a brisket too. You could have it sitting there for 2 hours. It's still going to stay warm and keep that moisture, and that's the important thing. And you're letting the moisture go back where it goes, once it starts cooling a little bit. So we pulled them out of the cooler, opened it up, put them on the table, and the first rib just pulled right out of them. Then I cut them up, and I'm telling you, I didn't use any sauce, nothing to dip them in, just ate it straight like that. They turned out perfect. So the important things are trim it up good, cook. Some folks cook at 225, would have took a little longer, but that's fine. 250 is fine for brisket or ribs or something like that. Get to an internal temperature of 160 or 165, and a lot of times that's where it locks up, kind of freezes. The stall, you'll hear people talk about in barbecue world. Wrap them good, put them back on there, forget about them until it gets up around 200 degrees internal temp. Pull them out, and they are lip smacking good. Matter of fact, yesterday we had one rib left over because it's just me and Audrey, right? And I took the meat off that rib, cut it up a little bit, heated it up, threw it on a warm tortilla with some cheese, no sauce, nothing, rolled it, ate it. It was phenomenal, okay? It was phenomenal. So there you go, folks. That's the vlog / podcast for today. Again, talked about those 2 news stories. You can look them up yourself. I'll have links in the description below for those watching the vlog. We've got some exciting guests coming, so I hope you join us for that. You want to make sure you see that stuff, hit that subscribe button down below. It doesn't cost anything, right? It's free to subscribe. And there's a little notification bell by it. Click that. And that way, when I upload a new video like this, a new vlog on this channel, you'll get the notification to come check it out. And then I'll also have the link down below to my main channel where the hunting videos, cooking videos, boat work videos, all those videos are on the other main channel. Okay. All right, folks. I think we've covered everything I wanted to cover today. I appreciate you joining me. I hope you all have a good rest of January and a rest of 2022. And we will see you next week in the next podcast vlog edition. All right, folks. Thank you. Peace out.